Good afternoon. This is Jose Soto, and you're listening to The Jose Soto Show. Today, I want to talk about how the Mormon influx into the anti gay marriage debate is very, very sneaky, and is also, by the way to get polygamy legalized. And when I say this, because I just figured this out for the last few months or so, that the inherent part of NOM, the Ruth Institute, all these anti-gay zombie groups, they're all dominated, influenced by free Masonic thinking, Jesuit types, Mormons from the Brigham Young University. Now, a gay reporter from Media Matters, I'm not really a fan of Media Matters, to be honest with you. I'm not really fond of them for various reasons. But when you actually do undercover work and you go into the lines, then, as we say, with trying to be undercover and attending a NOM convention or a NOM workshop, is really, I think, commendable, because we can therefore understand what these people are all about, what they are truly about. Is it really about protecting one man, one woman marriage? No, it is not. Let me just tell you that this whole attacking gay marriage thing, this whole anti-gay marriage advocacy, whether it's right or wrong, it's fairly recent. Gay marriage has existed in this earth for as long as humans have existed, in various ways and various different expressions. The first registered, documented gay marriage was in Rome. And there were various other gay relationships, famous ones, that were recorded in history, especially in Asia, in China, in Japan, Korea. You also have in Indonesia, in Persia, now Iran. Of course, you have the Islamist militant hacks like the president of Iran, Ahmadinejad, is trying to erase the gay history of Persia. You see, gay people have existed throughout time. And it's something that the now Mormon elite, who are controlling the debate, the anti-gay marriage debate, they're the ones who are trying to erase this history. The Native Americans here in America, who the Mormons despised. I mean, Mormons hated, and they still do, Native Americans, blacks, Latinos. They hated anybody who wasn't white. And they hated everybody who was basically affiliated as an American citizen, because you have to understand that Mormonism was born out of rebellion against the United States of America. And that's what we're talking about here. Some of you know that already, some of you don't. I just have to repeat it. But my gut feeling about this, and I have read many of these stories, reports done by these anti-gay marriage folks. And if you look at who they are being supported by, if you look at NOM is getting their money from where? Getting the money from the Vatican. It's a Vatican operative. It's a Vatican zombie group filled with Catholics. But who is doing the talking? Who is writing the script for NOM and for the Ruth Institute? Now, if you look at the Ruth Institute, you can look at people who are involved in that. And if you look at its president of the Ruth Institute, Let me see who that is. I forgot her name. But you have the director, Thomas Peters, okay, and various other figures, right? They're all affiliated with NOM. They're also affiliated with all these other foundations, and you can point to several of them. And some of them are actually involved with Peter Thiel. And who is Peter Thiel? Well, he is a person that is funding the Ron Paul race. And why does he fund the Ron Paul race and is also helping the anti-gay marriage debate? Is because it's all about the destruction of America. Anti-gay marriage people don't know this, but they are being useful idiots and pawns on this chessboard, which the enemies of America really hate this country so much that they're willing to masquerade themselves as these God-saving creatures, these cretins, these figures, that try to disguise themselves as Prince Charming, as Snow White, as these saviors, as these God-sent angels to save America. But no. I mean, if you look at some of this ideology that some of these anti-gay Christians and these anti-gay evangelicals and these Mormons are saying, God is going to come down to America and punish America. All Americans will be punished and will go to hell except us, except that group, except those who are going to be raptured, if you believe in the rapture, if you're one of those wacky Baptist evangelical types. And all of them, of course, are regurgitating Mormon theology. Mormonism has definitely infiltrated the gay marriage debate. It has. Financially, that's another point, and I wanted to make, is that Mormons were behind Prop 8, yes, financially, because they made huge bets. The Romney family, the Pratt family, the Pratts. If you look at all the big Mormon families, the Marriotts, they've all made huge bets in Wall Street over Proposition 8. You do know why they invested all that money, right? It wasn't because Mormons don't invest money to lose money. And believe me, every time, that they put money out, it's because they want something back. And when they put $20 million, over 20, I think my figure is $37 million that the LDS Church has invested in Proposition 8. And why they did that was because there were, and during that time, bets on this proposition. And the Mormon Church and all these Mormon elite made huge bets on Proposition 8. That's why everybody was stunned. If you look at the reports during Proposition 8, everybody was stunned. And I know about that. All you have to do is do your homework. So we have this reporter from Media Matters, and he is attending this sort of convention or conference that is being put together by NOM and the Ruth Institute for students who want to be basically anti-gay marriage activists. It's a training ground for these hacks and these fanatics. But who is running all this? I want to see who is behind the curtain. And of course, who's behind the curtain? It's not the president of Ruth, but you have to go all the way to the Mormon elite. Brigham Young, if according to this report that I just read on Media Matters, they're talking about that there were a lot of the Undercover Gay Reporter that was at this conference. He said that there were a lot of Mormon students there, a lot of Brigham Young students. And if you look at all these anti-gay initiatives, all these anti-gay marriage organizations, they're filled with Mormons. Catholics are just being useful idiots here. But what's happening is that the Mormon Church is trying to put Catholics on the front. Catholics are the front puppets for the Mormon elite who are trying to do what they want to do ever since they started with the Mormon religion. And what is that, you might be asking? Polygamy. The reason why the Mormon Church, and the reason why there's so much anti-gay marriage rhetoric out there, and who is instigating it, is the Mormon Church. Why? Because they want polygamy to be accepted. The reason why we're not just talking about gay marriage here. I mean, it's a very simple discussion. Do you think gay people should have the ability to maintain their economic rights as a gay couple and have their business recognized as any other heterosexual business, which is, of course, a marriage? Do you believe that, yes or no? It's a very simple question with a very simple answer. But the anti-gay marriage side is not making it simple. It's really stretching the whole debate, the whole question and answer thing. It's really stretching it like a rubber band. The reason why it's doing that, it's because it wants people to look at marriage in its entirety. We're not talking about, because gay people can't, reproduce. It's not just that. It's that the fact that they're saying that heterosexual reproduction is very important. Of course, the Vatican being the fact that they worship reproduction, the Mormon elite can hijack this, and they did. They hijacked this whole reproduction worshiping of the penis, the vagina, and all that, to be able to make polygamy acceptable, and we can discuss polygamy in a civilized society. Polygamy, let me just say this, polygamy is not accepted, not even in the gay community, not in any other community, but the Mormon community. It's accepted in their community because of the oppression of women and the superiority of the man. That's fine. If you want to believe that, that's your deal. But the reason why we allowed polygamy was because of the abuse and the abuse of children, and for various other reasons. It's coercive, it's abusive, and there are studies that show that. That's why we started out as a Western civilization, which was in Samaria and Babylon. I know in that area, in Mesopotamia, we did have polygamy in those areas. We did have polygamy in our early history, but why didn't we keep it? It's something that is very dangerous and abusive and coercive and all that. It usually within a couple of generations it gets dumped. Homosexuality has never been dumped. It's been oppressed by those who don't like it, because there are people in power in the elite structures ever since Western civilization landed in Samaria. And they don't like it when human beings love each other. They don't like it. They don't like when people love each other. They don't like that. They are into murder, killing, raping. That's what they want, the world elite. I mean, look at ancient Rome. Look at the gladiators. Look at how the elite of the Roman Empire loved to see people kill themselves and kill each other in these battles and these supposed sporting events. And they fed the early Christians to the lions. Christians should know about this. That's why you've had all these wars in human history, slavery, because of the dehumanization of other children of God, if you want to say that. And polygamy is one of those. Polygamy is right there with slavery. I mean, basically, it was slavery because the woman was subjected to the man. No matter what the man was able to buy as many women as he was able to afford. That's why polygamy is dumped. And through the generations, people stopped that custom. And it wasn't as though heterosexual men were like, well, I'm born this way, I can help myself, I have to have more than one wife. No, they did it because they were able to do it. And they could. But the paradigm has shifted to say, look, women are human beings too, and they have feelings too. And we don't believe that polygamy should be accepted. But then that took generations. When you want to let something go, it has to go through a period of purging. And it takes several generations for that to happen. And it did eventually happen. We had the Romantic period in which basically polygamy was gone. It was zero. But now you have the Mormons and you have Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, advocating for polygamy. And today, that is what we're going to talk about. Polygamy and why those who are against gay marriage are in fact helping the Mormons legalize polygamy. Because the Mormons, the Mormon elite, are behind this anti-gay marriage campaign, if you want to call it that. NOM is a zombie group filled with Vatican operatives, Jesuits, CIA operatives, and also is filled with these Mormon elite from Utah, who were all involved with the Salt Lake City Olympic fiasco, if you remember that. Research that. You think Mormons are just nice people? No. The Mormon Church is highly corrupted, just like the church that my family used to belong to, the Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witnesses. Highly corrupted. When you have a secretive, esoteric organization like that, a church like that, you will have corruption, just like you have corruption in the Vatican, where they even kill their own popes, where they practice polygamy, where they practice gay marriage. If you don't believe me, research the history of the Vatican. I'm not saying that gay marriage is wrong. Of course not. I believe in it. I think it's a great thing that we have that. But I don't like is hypocrisy. That's what I don't like. And I don't like people being sneaky and having ulterior agendas and taking advantage of poor, vulnerable people, whether they're anti-gay or not. And this whole anti-gay sentiment is being programmed into these vulnerable Christians, vulnerable Mormons, rank and file activists, and they don't even know where all of this ideology comes from. It doesn't come from the Bible. It doesn't come from, and they can cite any verse that they want, but they cannot find a verse that will exactly fit what they're saying. I've heard them all. I've heard every verse from the Bible being recited, being regurgitated, and you know what? The words that they recite don't even match what the debate is about, which is homosexual marriage. That's what we're talking about, not anything else. All right, let me take a break, and once we are back from the break, I'm going to share with you what this gay reporter who went undercover into this anti-gay conference, what he found, and what I found interesting of what he was able to report. So let's do that. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back after these short messages. And we're back, and it's, first of all, I just want to say it's really hard to explain within 1 hour everything that I know about the Mormon Church, about its founding, its ideology, its anti-American activism, its anti-gay activism, and how it's was influenced before by British intelligence, by MI5, MI6, the British Crown, Freemasonry, basically. I mean, that's what the theology of the Mormon Church has always been, Freemasonic. People don't understand that because obviously they don't really let you see the entire theology if you're not a Mormon. They'll tell you a few things. If you ever see a Mormon on the bicycle, going down the street, and you stop him and you say, "Hey, you're a Mormon missionary?" "Yeah." "All right, I want to know if about your thing, your theology. I want to know what you guys believe in." They're not going to tell you everything. They're going to tell you a really short rundown, summary of Joseph Smith, what the golden plates and all that. Now, here's the thing. I don't really care about that. I don't care if that might be true. Maybe Joseph Smith did see something. But was it what he think it was? I don't know. Maybe he defrauded everybody. Maybe that's what he was doing, because obviously he was a fraud. If you look at his criminal history up in was it New Hampshire or Vermont? I think it was. Up there in New England, you'll find this criminal record of his in which he was a fraud. I mean, he defrauded a lot of people. So it's really difficult for me to say within an hour, okay, it's going to take me a few days to really tell all of you what the Mormon Church is about. And of course, now, since we have Mittens Romney running for president, whose grandfather was a polygamist, right? That's why they went down to Mexico to open up a polygamist colony of sort where they can practice polygamy. And why did they want to practice polygamy? Is it because of religious freedom? No, it's because the oppression of women. And it's basically all about that. It's this continuous Freemasonic reproduction worship derived from the Vatican, derived from Rome, derived from Babylon and Samaria. It goes all the way back. All these religions are interlinked. There is no special religion. If there was a special religion, I would have been somewhat taken back from it. Oh, yeah, you have a different kind of way of looking at life. That's really interesting. But either everybody saw something the same and everybody has a different interpretation. I'm not sure. Maybe that's what happened. But the Mormon Church has a particular interpretation that I think everybody should be interested in and everybody should know about. The history. The revenge oath that they have, this vengeance upon America. Ever since Joseph Smith was murdered in Illinois, the Mormons had this vendetta and this vengeance against the United States. And that's why they've always tried to run for president. I mean, Joseph Smith tried to run for president. You have various other Mormons, trying to get into power. And if you look at Utah itself, 99% of it is white. And all the government offices and all the government appointees, the state legislature, all of it is Mormon. You have a Mormon governor. You have a Mormon lieutenant governor. Everything there is Mormon. Now imagine, let's say, that West Hollywood becomes a state down in Southern California. It becomes the 51st state. And the governor is gay. The lieutenant governor is gay. The entire legislature is gay. What would happen if that were to occur? You're going to have the right-wing reactionaries, and with the Mormon theology backing them, because what they're saying is all Mormon theology. What the words that come out of their mouths. You're going to say, this is sodomy. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. That's what they're going to say. This is the new Sodom and Gomorrah. It's going to destroy America. And the thing is, they want the destruction of America. All of these Mormon, evangelical, conservative, reactionary Catholics, they want the destruction of America to come now. It's not just to prove that they were right. No. But they do want America to be destroyed. These ministers, these televangelists, these Pat Robertson, and you have John Hagee, you have all these people, all these charlatans, yelling and screaming and foaming at the mouth. And what are they saying? America's doomed. America's destroyed. America's going to be destroyed by God. And today, what do you have? You have a hurricane coming out. Instead of all of us being prepared, right? Getting that ready to make sure or evacuate New Orleans right away. What are we saying now? There's this minister, these couple of pastors out there saying that it's because of the gays. And this is another sign that God's going to destroy America. You're always going to see that an anti-gay theology. It's not a theology, by the way. It's not hatred. Let me just tell you this. It's not hatred of gay people. It's hatred of America. With the ulterior, subtle agenda of legalizing polygamy. That is what we have underneath. Nobody's talking about that, but I will talk about that. And I've been observing this, and now it's time for me to talk about it. I'm just going to start off today with that, and then maybe next week I'll try to delve into this again and try to bring you more evidence and go piece by piece on that. But today, I just want to let you know and give you the background and the foundation of what I believe in. And that is that every time you see an anti-gay theologist, a reactionary, a right-winger, whatever you want to call it, it's basically Freemasonic, Scottish Freemasonry, Dixiecrat theology, talking about how America will be destroyed. Remember, the Dixiecrats, which were all influenced by Scottish Rite Freemasonry and British intelligence, you're going to have them talking about, and during the years before the Civil War, that there's going to be this huge fight, there was going to be this huge war against the oppressive North, and what happened after that is, of course, the fulfillment of that prophecy, of that self-fulfilled prophecy, which is, of course, the destruction of America, the destruction of the Union. Dixiecrat theology, and of course Joseph Smith in the 1830s predicted the Civil War. He said that there will be a great war, that a brother will fight against brother, and he really lauded this. I mean, he was for the Civil War. He was for the destruction of America. Why? Because he was being influenced by British intelligence, and you had all these Mormon missionaries going to England during the 1830s and the 40s and the 50s, trying to recruit more Mormons over there. Why? Because British intelligence thought that this was a good thing, because they loved Mormon theology. They loved the polygamy, they loved the oppressiveness, the groupthink, the control, freakish control system that they have in the Mormon Church. And I hate it when they call it a church. It's not a church. It's an organization. It's a political movement. That's what it is. It's just like Islam. Islam is not a religion. I don't believe so. Islam has been degraded. It used to be a religion, right? It was a beautiful religion before. It was a copy of Christianity in some ways, but it had a very good purpose before. But now it's all degraded. Now you have people, of course the CIA degraded it even more by creating Al-Qaeda, calling that a Muslim. But then you have, of course, all the other Muslims all around the world. That's what happens when you spread it too fast, too hard. You're going to have all these fanatics, is Muslim Brotherhood, Muslim extremists, saying that we should execute gay people, we should execute Christians, we should execute Catholics. And I think nobody should be executed just for being a Catholic. You try to lead people to the truth, not kill them. I mean, that's... I don't know about you, but that's what I believe in. So, the Mormon Church has always been behind all of this, the Civil War, the Great Depression, World War I, World War II. They were not the instigators of those world wars, but they were rooting for the U.S. to be defeated. I mean, that's what they were doing during those times. And the vengeance against the United States because of the death of Joseph Smith, that's a big one. People don't talk about that. Brigham Young said that there should be a vengeance, that blood would be spilled upon this nation. And if you look at the Westboro Baptist Church, their theology, the God Hates Fag Church, their theology is all based on Mormon theology, Freemasonic theology, and Dixiecrat ideology. That's all where it comes from, that God hates America. If you look at Westboro Baptist Church, that's what the Mormons believe. But the Mormons use different little words, to mince it a little bit, to make it more palatable. Imagine if the Phelps clan, imagine if their leader, Reverend Phelps, grandfather, imagine if Pastor Phelps was running for president for the Republican ticket, and everybody took him seriously, right? Oh yes, he's a great guy. You cannot talk about his, well, first of all, how he got his money. from asset stripping, from being a hedge fund hyena to being a Wall Street crook. I mean, all of this thing, destroying companies and betting against companies, because that's what Mormons do. They bet against American companies. What they do, what Mormons think is, well, your typical Mormon is not gonna, say yes, of course, now, yeah, I know about the whole vengeance oath against America, but if you let them know, look, your theology is kind of the same as the Westboro Baptist Church theology. If you really read what they have written in the past, and I'm talking about the 1960s and the 1970s. It's not that far away. They still believe this, but they're not reciting it. It's still lingering. It's still part of their... the whole reason why the Mormon Church became what it is and why they have Utah as their state, as their nation state, basically, is because of this whole vengeance against the United States. That's the whole reason for being there. So if you took the Westboro Baptist Church and just change a few words, calling themselves the Church of Latter-day Kansas or something, then they would be accepted. And you cannot question the Westboro Baptist Church's theology or their tactics, because that's freedom of religion, right? Unless if you're trying to make a law that says, they can't picket the funerals of these poor soldiers. But if you look at what these people say, all of these anti-gay groups are from the Family Research Council, which is all CIA, which is all Homeland Security. That's why you have somebody like Tony Perkins running it, who is a big government operative, who knows more about anti-terrorism tactics than he does about family values or any of that bullshit. These people really hate independent families. They really do. And that's why they don't want gay people to raise children. And the reason why, and they'll scare you to say, because they're pedophiles. No, they don't want gay people to raise families because that's independent of their theology. That's the only reason. And now if gay people start raising kids and start forming families, you're going to see straight families raising kids their own way, independent of church theology or church doctrine or this groupthink, this takeover of America by foreign entities. That's what they are, because the Mormons still believe that they are a nation. They are free from the United States. They're not part of the United States. They hate America because they killed their leader, Joseph Smith. Look at what they said in the past and what they still believe today. Rank and file Mormons are not going to tell you that. Not even the bishops will know. But up in the higher ups, in the elite, the 12 leaders, whatever they're called, of the governing body of the Mormon Church, that's what they believe in. So, anyways, let's take a little break. I'm gonna take a little sip of water. I'll be right back. And as promised, I want to get into this undercover gay reporter that went to this NOM conference. And this is where you can look at it. It's going to be linked on the gayreport.net today. And I want you to be able to know exactly what they're saying. This is their underlying their underlining foundation of what they believe in. Okay, and this is all going to come together. Why I believe that the Mormons are behind the anti-gay marriage front, and why they're doing it is not because they want to protect the sanctity of marriage, because already in the Mormon world, being gay is already illegal. In Utah, it was illegal since up to 2003. It was illegal to be gay in Utah. So now we're going to talk about why they want this gay marriage debate. And it goes back to polygamy. We'll be right back after these short messages. This is the Jose Soto Show. Alright, now we're back, and I hope I'm trying to put all this together and to build this background, this foundation of what we're talking about here, which is the Mormon Church. Now, you're asking yourself, why do you believe, Jose, that all of this anti-gay marriage brouhaha is all about legalizing polygamy? Well, look at it this way. Every time we bring up the gay marriage issue, what do they talk about? What are those who are against gay marriage saying? Well, if you're going to do that, we're going to have to legalize polygamy. Then they challenge you and they say to you, even though you're talking about same-sex marriage, which has been in existence since humans landed on this earth, it's always been in existence. Gay marriage. But then they're going to tell you, they're going to challenge you, they're going to say, well, what's then wrong with polygamy? Right? That's the new talking point. Before, the talking point was, well, it's immoral, it's wrong, it's sinful. The end. But now, since the Mormon Church has hijacked this whole debate, and they did it, very sneaky. And people don't talk about this, but I will. What do they always say? I mean, the points that are being made against gay marriage come from Salt Lake City. That's what we are finding out now. That's what I'm finding out now. And to me, everything's starting to connect in my head. It's starting to connect the dots. The puzzle is coming together here now. Okay? What we have is this undercover reporter. First of all, let me just talk about this undercover reporter. This undercover reporter from Media Matters, he went into this NOM conference that was being put together by Ruth Institute, which is the sort of like the CIA of the NOM group. But NOM is mostly a zombie organization that filled with Vatican puppets, and you have the Mormons supplying the dialogue and supplying the theology. So what you're seeing is this collusion of Vatican and Salt Lake City theology. You have the Vatican, who worships reproduction. That's why they're all into the uterus and not into children. They're into fetuses, not children. How about that? Let me just tell you that. If the Vatican was into children, believe me, the Vatican will be fighting tooth and nail to keep S-chip, to keep all the health benefits for children in America. But they're not going to do that. They only care about the uterus. They're going to probe the uterus of women. And not if you want an abortion. It's not about abortion. All these laws that these Vatican operatives are trying to promote in Virginia and Michigan and Mississippi and all these other areas is because they're saying, if you want an abortion, we're going to probe your uterus. Next, it's going to be, and that's what they're saying now, oh, every woman that gets pregnant has to have their uterus probed, so that way they don't think about having an abortion. Right? It's worshipping. It's this creepy, perverted kind of, I don't know, it's just really creepy. It's really perverted that they worship a fetus like this. And they do. And it goes back to the reproduction worship of the religious sects of Babylon and of Samaria, all the way down to that area. Yes, it goes back there because that's where Western civilization was born, in Samaria. Okay? Now, this undercover reporter, he went to this NOM conference, and We're going to link up the report on the gayreport.net so you can read it. It's a lot of info, a lot of intel. Some of it, not surprising. Some of it, so-so. But one thing really stuck out for me the most. And that was this person, the speaker from the professor. This professor, right. He's a professor of the New Testament at Pittsburgh Theological Seminar. And his name is Robert Gannon. Okay? And he is a big time, because that name stood out for me, and I remember who this guy is. He's a big time activist. He's a Vatican operative who, by the way, is very fond of Mormonism. Like Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan is a Vatican operative, but he's very, very fond and supportive of Mormon theology. You see, back in the 1960s, in the 1970s, in the 1980s, the thought of a Mormon president was unheard of. Unheard of. I mean, you're talking about traditional values. That was one traditional value. We never had Mormons in federal government running the country, because everybody knew back then that Mormons were not this misunderstood people. No, they hated America. They had this theology against America. They want America destroyed. Just like the thought of any of these wacky evangelicals like Jerry Falwell and all those other creepos, these bottom feeders that were crawling out of their caves, talking about that America is doomed and destroyed, it's going to be torn into pieces, and that's what they want. They want America destroyed into small little pieces. So that way you have either the UN or a new monetary global governance taking over America. Now, I'm not saying that to frighten you. I'm just saying that that's what I think can happen. I'm not saying it will. You see, we don't know what the future really holds. I mean, that could be a possibility, or we can stand up to this Mormon takeover, to this Vatican takeover, and say, you know what, you're not going to take over our country. This is our country. Go back to Italy and go back to Utah. Stay there. Leave us alone. We appreciate the American system, the one that we have built over the decades. No, you're not going to cut our Social Security, our Medicare, our Medicaid, and our S-chip. And I'm sorry, 50 million people need to eat. We have to have the food stamps. Or else what do you want? You want chaos? You want chaos in this country? You want people not only to starve to death, but some people to get desperate and start robbing people, start stealing from the stores, what is it that you want? And you see, these reactionaries will never tell you what the solution is, because they don't have a solution. Their solution is destruction. That's what their solution is. We cannot take away unemployment or any of these welfare programs until the Depression is over. If you take away those programs, the deficit of this country will triple. I guarantee you that it will triple, just like it happened in Greece when they took away all these welfare programs for the poor. What happened is that the deficit dramatically increased more than they ever thought. And you cannot have that. You cannot have genocide. You cannot have people starving. Even libertarians know that. Libertarians know that you cannot just cut off people like that. But that's what the Mormons are trying to do. That's what Paul Ryan is saying. We should do that. Now, I know I'm sidetracking here, but I just wanted to give you all this, okay? Now, Robert Gannon, who's the associate professor of New Testament at Pittsburgh Theological Seminar. Now, he gave a lecture called Jesus and Marriage. Now, in the lecture, he was basically quoting verses from the Bible, trying to correlate verses from the Bible. Like, anybody can do that. Anybody can correlate a verse to prove a point. I can take several verses from the Bible and say that those verses support gay marriage. I could do that, but I'm not really sure of that, because you have to really know and understand the ancient language, ancient Greek language, ancient Hebrew. You have to understand all that. But people just, they're really, really freaking ignorant. They don't understand. Now, this professor, you know what? I'm going to take a short break because I really want to get into this really, really deep. So for the last segment, I'm going to talk about what this professor said and why I think this is what the underlying thesis, the underlying motive is for fighting gay marriage. It's not about protecting one man, one woman marriage. It's all about legalizing polygamy. Like I said, whenever you bring up gay marriage in polite discussion, what gets brought up? Polygamy. Incest, that's just a phase. But polygamy is the number one culprit. If you want to legalize gay marriage, you have to legalize polygamy. In polite society, we're talking about the oppression of women, the oppression of children, and these polygamist families. That's what we're talking about. Polygamy wasn't just about, a few adults trying to get together and have an equal marriage. No, polygamy, the new polygamy, which is the face of the Mormon religion, was all about, and is still about, because you still have all these polygamist families in Utah. Is all about the oppression of women, the oppression of children, coercion, and abuse. That's what it's all about. And you see all the studies, you see all the social studies that have been done on polygamy. You see why the humans on this planet decided to dump it. Because it was wrong. Not morally, but psychologically, emotionally. It destroyed everybody that was involved. It destroyed children's lives. It created havoc. It created wars within families. It created incest. It created a lot of these problems. Homosexuality doesn't create those problems. That's why humans have never dumped it. You get it? All right. Well, let's take a short break and we'll be right back with Gannon and this professor and see what he has to say why banning gay marriage is important. He's going to let you know. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alright, and we're back. And funny that we're talking about the Mormons, and I just received an email from a listener who said that there is some of these ads during our show. You see the ads for the Mormon Church. I don't care. They can place an ad. As long as they don't mind that I basically bust their balls and expose them for who they are. And no, it's not really, it's not really hypocritical of me. I can't block those ads anyways if I wanted to. There's a contract that I have to sign with Google. So, anyway, yes. We have these ads to support the show so we can get better equipment, so we can do all these other things I really want to do for you and to expand the operation of this show. And that's fine, and that's hopefully very soon that we can do that. Now, going back to Gannon. This is what this professor, listen to what this professor says. Okay? Listen very closely. This is the professor of a seminary explaining to you that homosexuality is more sinful than polygamy. That's what he says. And the reason why he's saying that is because you want to make polygamy look good. Homosexuals look bad. That is the bottom line of the Mormon-influenced anti-gay marriage foundations. The anti-gay marriage movement is all run by the Mormon elite of Salt Lake City and of New York, Wall Street. They are trying to get polygamy legalized and talked about in a civil society. Imagine that. Because polygamy, they're going to argue now, polygamy, you could have a lot of children to be able to supply the population with. They're going to make all these arguments now. Homosexuality, you're going to have, all this, okay? You have all these diseases, blah, blah, blah. Even though I've heard of a study before that in polygamist colonies, they have high rates of diseases mental illness, psychological disturbances, child abuse, all this, incest. People don't believe me. All right. So let's go ahead and see what this pastor has to say.
Since the foundation, obviously, is more important than the superstructure built on it, the conclusion from that is that a homosexual relationship is worse than a polygamous one. Because a polygamous relationship is a point extrapolated from the foundation. That is, we derive from a male-female prerequisite that there ought to be only two persons in a sexual union. But that's a derived notion. The number of partners in a sexual union is derived from the concept of a male-female prerequisite. A homosexual relationship is a direct attack on the foundation because it says there is no male-female prerequisite. And that makes a homosexual relationship more severe because it's a direct assault on the foundation and not simply a structure built on the foundation.
There you go. That's the underlying purpose of why these Utah, Brigham Young, Freemason-influenced Mormons are trying to use Catholics, evangelicals, to get on their side, using gay marriage to be able to make polygamy look good. Why? Well, this is what Gannon said, and let me repeat what he said. Because a polygamous relationship is a point extrapolated from the foundation. When he meant extrapolated, what did he mean by that? He meant that it is better than that foundation. It's part of the foundation. It is the foundation. Polygamy. That is, we derive from a male-female prerequisite that there ought to be only two persons in a sexual union. But that's a derived notion. It's all just a derived notion. It means nothing. One man and one woman marriage means nothing. That's what the Mormons all believe in. Subconsciously, the rank and file don't know this. Of course, they're going to deny it. No, we are not for polygamy. Because they're trained not to admit to it. The Mormon Church works like a mafia. Everybody is going to support each other, and they're not going to rat each other out to the coppers. All right? That is what we are about. The number of partners in a sexual union is derived from the concept of a male-female prerequisite. See that? So now they're saying that the number of partners is, this is at a NOM conference run by the Ruth Institute. The Ruth Institute is the institute that's been in existence longer than NOM under a different name. And they're the ones who supply all the theology, they supply all the speakers, they supply, and almost all of them, the writers, the people who put all of this together are Mormons or Vatican operatives under Mormon influence. Now, you have to ask yourself why the Vatican is letting this happen. I don't know why. Are they part of it? Or is the Vatican also being influenced by British intelligence? We don't know that. And, you might be asking, Jose, why do you bring up British intelligence? Well, that's the truth. The Mormons have been influenced by British intelligence ever since they started. And British intelligence have, since the end of the Revolutionary War of this country, wanted to destroy America. They had bases in Canada where they were able to instigate the Indians or do other things too. And then they're also behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln right after the Civil War. They were also behind the Civil War, trying to instigate the South against the North. And during that time, you have Dixiecrat theology. The notion that black people were subhuman, women were subjected. Then you have the polygamists, who were the Mormons, who were also applying that same theology because they were also influenced by the same Dixiecrat, Southern Scottish Free Masonry, the Scottish Rite. And that's where it all comes from. Who's the Scottish Rite? Well, that comes from the Knights Templar. That goes back to Vatican worship of reproduction and all this other stuff. And it goes back to Samaria. It goes back to Babylon. And you have to trace everything back. You have to say why in history, why are we witnessing what we are witnessing today? It's because, of course, history has the answers. You have to look at history. You have to look at why we're at this point. Because throughout human history, there have always been masters who want to control the human race. The only way that they can do that and accomplish that is to be able to make sure that people don't get together in mass and support each other. That's what they don't want. That's why they don't want gay marriage. Because if heterosexuals in this country and everywhere else were to see the true potential of gay relationships and gay marriage, how love is really important, that can totally shift the paradigm of marriage itself to one based on love and not based on dogma. So when you go based on love instead of dogma, people will be more in tune with that spiritual notion of love, that spiritual energy. And that's what I believe in. And love conquers anything. Love can move mountains, and we all know that. But the engineers of religion, the engineers of dogma and fanaticism, destruction, communism, socialism, even capitalism, all of these isms that were created by the masters and the controllers of this human race, the rich elite, the 1%ers, whatever you want to call them. I don't even think it's 1%. I think it's less than that. It's 0.001% that control the rest of the population. That's who we're talking about. And all throughout history, they're trying to control our emotions, or trying to destroy what it is to be human. And that is, of course, love is the biggest, most unique, energetic feeling, emotion that we have as humans. No other species, no other animal, and I don't think we are animals. I don't think we are. But let's say that no other species on this planet is, of course, experiencing love. Only we are, consciously and subconsciously. They hate that. The elite hate it when we pull ourselves together and we help each other out. And the gay community, if you look at the gay community, it's a good example. It's a good incubator to show you of how they're trying to destroy that notion. You have all these gay men being superficial, being influenced by the gay media, by all this sexualized feelings that everything has to be artificial and superficial and stupid. And we don't need to go there. We gay people, gay men, we are better than that. We have so much to contribute. And, love is one of them. And we can show the way, but they don't want that. They know that. What they want is polygamy. Because polygamy will therefore close out any of that. It will be all about reproduction, and it will be all about enslavement. That's what polygamy is about. And that's what they believe, Mormons. And if we continue on this route, one of these days we're going to see, a civil discussion about polygamy. And they're going to say, well, because we have to legalize gay marriage, that's why. No. Polygamy has nothing to do with gay marriage. Nothing at all. Nothing. It's a total different thing. Because gay people are not, gay people where gay marriage is legalized were not allowed to be in polygamous marriages at all. So what does that have? Why does one thing should lead to another? It doesn't make sense. Because if they say, well, if you drop one restriction, why not drop them all? No, that's not what they're saying. They're only focusing on polygamy. That's all they're focusing on right now. Because if that were true, if that were true, that if you allow gay people to get married and you drop that restriction, then you have to drop all restrictions. Right? That doesn't make sense. It's like if you're building a cake and you baked the cake, now you took it out of the oven and now you stuffed it with fruit stuffing or strawberries, peaches, whatever. And now you're going to think about adding the topping, right? The icing on the cake. And then you say, you know what? I'm probably going to put chocolate on one side, or 2/3 of the cake will be chocolate and 1/3 of it will be vanilla or whatever. And then your friend says, who's looking at you baking the cake, he says, well, if you're going to allow chocolate, might as well allow blueberry, might as well allow strawberry, might as well allow banana, might as well allow kiwi, what do I mean? I just want that. You see? Because if they were very serious about the fact that if you drop one restriction, you have to, or the slippery slope, if they were really serious about that, then everything should be on the table. Marrying roller coasters, marrying your dog, marrying everything. And I know some people have brought it up already, but they were not serious. The serious discussion now is polygamy. That's the most serious discussion. Why? Because now they're trying to make it a discussion that we can discuss in a civilized society. And who's behind that? Who else? Who wanted to legalize polygamy in the U.S. since the inception of the U.S.? I mean, yeah, the Mormons. Joseph Smith, Brigham Young. Have homosexuals or gay people, have we homos ever tried to legalize polygamy? No, never. We have this natural inclination to be with one partner only at a time. Why? Because that is the human nature of equality. When you have one partner, you can equally share each other's love. If you have 3 people, there's always going to be disparity. That's reality right there. That's a fact. And I know gays that tried to do that. Let's have a 3-way relationship. And it never worked. Never works. And the Out magazine, they tried to publish an article about that a few months ago. Oh, look at this relationship. It's working out. And it doesn't look like it's working out. It looks like, they try to portray this 3-way, like this couple that let this other guy join in, and they have, it's a 3-way polygamous relationship. But the third guy that came in, he came in because he likes one of the guys. And the other third one, the third leg, is an older gentleman who has money. That really clicked into me and said, that's why he's there. It's all about money. And of course the other guy's hot. I'm telling you, polygamy will never work in any circumstance. It will not work in a heterosexual environment, nor will it work in a homosexual one. Heterosexual polygamy will be worse because you have children involved, you have incest involved, you have everything that can happen. Abuse, slavery, it can happen within a polygamous colony, a polygamous family. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. That's what I think this whole anti-gay marriage debate will lead to one day, talking civilly about legalizing polygamy in Utah. because you legalize gay marriage. They're going to use gay marriage. Yes, they're going to use it. The Mormons will use gay marriage to legalize polygamy and to legitimize it. And is it our fault? No. It's not our fault. It's like saying, well, Muslims now are trying to kill gay people in the U.S. because they say, well, if Christians are allowed to worship in public, I'm allowed to kill in public. We're not going to blame the Christians for that, are we? No. Why are you killing people? Don't do that. Anyway. Alright, that's all I want to say for today. And you can follow me on Twitter, The Real Jose Soto. That's my Twitter account. You can also look at my blog for some interesting rantings and thoughts. TheRealJoseSoto.blogspot.com. If you wish to follow us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest podcast uploads and posts. Also, you can follow us on YouTube for the latest segments on different news articles and events that I will be covering later on today. Be sure to stay tuned for that. And this is the Jose Soto Show. I'm Jose Soto. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.